Welcome everyone to our webinar, What Sales Needs to Close Deals, Collaboration. Our presenters today are Jay Manson, Leverage Point's Vice President of Sales, and Ed Arnold, Vice President of Products. Take it away, Jay.
Thanks, Aaron. Welcome all to Leverage Point, this monthly webinar series that we run. Leverage Point is the software solution for value-based pricing. And every month we run a webinar on a topic, a timely topic that our customers are talking to us about. And recently, particularly coming out of Professional Pricing Society, we've had a number of folks come up to us and ask the very important question: what can pricing and marketing do to provide better information to sales so that they can close more deals? With me today is my friend and colleague, Ed Arnold.
Hello, everyone, and great to be here, as always. And just to let folks know, we are recording this webinar, and it will be posted on our website where you'll find this as well as our previous webinars and other resources as well, and that's at www.leveragepoint.com.
And it's always important that Ed puts in the website for everyone to know. Next slide, please. So the agenda today, we wanted to briefly just talk about Professional Pricing Society because, as I mentioned before, this topic really kind of emerged out of what we were hearing at Professional Pricing Society. And then I wanted to talk just briefly about what we see the sales challenge today. And it's really about how you motivate customers to take action. Then talk a little bit about how collaboration can create unique value propositions that drive customers to action. And we wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and as always, we'll save a little bit of time on the back end for Q&A. And about that, there is a chat feature on the GoToWebinar application. You'll find that on your right-hand side panel. Anytime during our presentation, this is a 30-minute presentation, by the way, you can write questions or comments. Our colleague Aaron, who's off to my right, will be watching those, and at the end we'll go through them as long as we have time remaining. Okay, so why don't we move on to the next slide. So just for the folks out there, we wanted to show you a picture from last month's spring Professional Pricing Conference. This is a picture of our booth and our happy sales and marketing team. So you know what Jay and I look like. That handsome fellow way over on the left-hand side is Aaron Miller, who's behind the scenes.
So he does really exist. I know many of you talk to him on a regular basis, but he does truly exist.
Now, we were really excited about this last conference because, one, there was a lot of energy in the room. I think a lot of companies are starting to look more aggressively about what they're going to do in marketing and sales. So we talked with literally hundreds of folks who stopped by, very interested in what we were doing, and also they were very, very pumped about our latest innovation, which was an app for the iPad 2. So we actually had a couple iPads in the booth we were showing people. Or actually, the nice thing about the iPad is you don't have to be in the booth. We were all over the conference. Jay had an interesting lunch where he basically used that as a springboard for some interesting discussions. And I'll just mention that our last webinar, we actually talked about the iPad. So if you're curious about that, you might want to check that out.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was doing a whole product demo on our iPad, and there was a vice president of sales from another software company sitting there saying, God, I really wish my salespeople had something like this in their hands as well. But what was really interesting actually it was interesting, this is a slide that we took from a Harvard Business Review article. Our latest board member, Ed Mallon, who's joined the company, sent me this article, and I was actually reading it on the way back from Professional Pricing Society, and it really struck a chord with me. I believe that sales in this economy is at its most challenging, and you can probably tell by my gray hairs that I've been in sales for a little while now. But it's really challenging, and it's strange that it's challenging because we all know that corporations in America right now are sitting on unprecedented amounts of cash. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, you can look in Wall Street Journal today, and you can see that unemployment figures are going through the roof again. it's very hard to motivate a customer to take action. And what I liked about this view of the world, if you will, was that really in order to get a customer to take action, you have to be provocative. You have to really provide a compelling value proposition about why they need to move forward. And if you look at how most sales teams are trained today, you can look at Miller Hyman's training on conceptual selling. And it's all about kind of the top chart here. Let's understand the customer's needs. Let's understand the customer needs across an enterprise, Miller Hyman strategic selling. And then, you can go to something like Holden's power-based selling that talks about, let's talk about how we're different from the competition and how do we move the competition out of the opportunity. The reality is that creates a really long sales cycle. And as the sales cycle lengthens, the probability of closure diminishes rapidly. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense if you look at what business customers are wrestling with today. First of all, they have incredibly complex procurement processes that they have to go through. I'm in negotiations right now with a very large chemical company, and the business owner wants to move forward with our solution. He wasn't even aware of the steps that he had to take through procurement. He set up agreements that he couldn't set up, the procurement wouldn't allow him to set up. It was really complex. And the whole time through this process, he had to come back again and again to procurement to talk about what's different. Why are we using this application as opposed to some other application? What are we going to get out of this? And this was an ongoing battle for about 3 weeks of constant back and forth with procurement, which is really challenging. The other piece that we see is that the competition, unfortunately, isn't always a nice, neat competitor that looks like us. The example of a software company that I was talking to, they're a shipping logistics provider. How do you optimize shipping logistics? And the VP of sales there was talking about how in one of his sales cycles, his competition wasn't another logistics package. He was competing against the R&D department that wanted to hire researchers. So help me understand what the value is for the enterprise of getting this logistics package as opposed to getting research advisors. Well, that's really pretty hard and difficult to do. And then the other piece is most of our buyers today don't have enough time. They don't have time to walk us through the sales cycle. They don't have time to tell you about what we need and help you get a better understanding of our organization. Most of them really don't. And most of them on top of that have already hit the website and know your features and benefits. So how do you motivate these folks to take action? Well, you have to come in with a clear understanding of their business model. You have to be able to talk not about features and benefits, but specifically about how you can drive value for them, how you can improve their business. And in order to do that, you need to walk in the door with strong ammunition. And what we're going to talk about today is how we provide salespeople the strong ammunition so that they can come up with the unique value proposition for that unique customer in that unique scenario, and how marketing and pricing can use that information to gain critical insight.
Thanks, Jay. That was a great overview of these cycles. What we'd like to do now is poll the audience and see what they think and what they're experiencing about their own sales cycle. So the question is, how has the recent economic climate affected your sales cycle? You can choose one of the four responses here. The first one is sales cycles are noticeably longer, such as that top cycle we showed in the previous slide. B, sales cycles are perhaps a bit longer, a little bit longer than normal. C, little or no change from normal. And then fourth, actually our sales cycles are improving. So those are our four choices. We have the polling question up. Okay. So pick one of those four. We'll keep this open for a moment, and I'll ask Jay what he expects.
Well, as I look at this question, I might have thought about it a little bit before in advance. If you think about what was happening in 2008, where sales cycles completely stopped,
Right.
hopefully people are seeing some improvement in sales cycles right now.
Mm.
But I think if you went back to 2005, 2006, and looked at those sales cycles, I think for the most part you would see them much longer and more complex. But it'll be interesting to see what folks say.
Yeah, I have no idea what to predict on this one, so I'm going to keep it neutral. Let me just look to Aaron and see what he thinks.
Yeah, just waiting for the last couple votes to come in right now. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay, we'll cut it off here. Apologize if anyone didn't get a chance to vote. So we're going to show the results here. And are they up on the screen?
Yep, they are up on the screen.
Okay, so I'm from where I can see here, this is interesting. 63% of cycles are noticeably longer. 38% are perhaps a bit longer, and 0 on either no change or improving.
Yeah. So it makes sense that we're hearing from folks about the desire to provide salespeople with critical information. And I know personally this is what I'm experiencing, so it doesn't surprise me. I think the underlying theme here, however, is that it's not just that sales cycles are longer. It's as sales cycles get longer, closure rates drop as well. And that's been historically proven out. So this is a really important area to think about.
All right, so let's move on then.
So I put together this slide to really define some terms, because I think it's important to have specific terms when we talk about what do we mean by a unique value proposition, okay? And this slide really came from a discussion that Ed and I had with the VP of sales of one of our customers. They're a very large provider to the oil industry. This gentleman has been selling in this industry for a number of years, 20 to 30 years, a real consummate sales professional. And, what he said to me was, everyone talks about value.
What are the things
but what does it really mean
for our customer? Why they benefit from it, what it's worth to them. He said, if I know what it's worth to them, then I know I can close the deal. I know I can accelerate the deal. So let's just take a moment to define what we mean by these different elements. So we talk about feature and benefit statements all the time.
And when we think about a feature, what we're really saying is, what is it that an offer does? What do we do? The benefit is why the customer should care. Now, I'm emphasizing the word should, because it's our hypothesis about why they should care. And one of the key elements that we see from marketing teams is a lot of research to find out whether this hypothesis around this benefit is something that they really care about or not, right? And now, what our view is, you need to take it to the next step. In order for a customer to care, you need to be able to explain what it's worth to them. And when we're talking about worth, we're talking about economic worth. So when we talk about value, we're talking about specific economic value, how it drives revenue, how it reduces costs specifically. Now, a value proposition is really pulling these feature and benefit statements and value drivers and value messages all together into one value proposition as you're thinking about it across a specific segment against a collection of competitors, right? So what we're trying to identify is, what's the value we deliver over and above the competition in a specific market? This value proposition is really powerful. It can feed a lot of marketing activities. It can feed a lot of pricing activities as well. And we see those value propositions, as they're defined here, used a lot throughout organizations. The piece is
that we want to get to is how do we put this information in the hands of salespeople so it closes deals? And that means we need to take this value proposition, this generic value proposition, and make it specific and unique for a customer now, at this point in time. So as we talk about our value proposition and what we're talking about with customers, what we're trying to get to is that unique value proposition for that given customer. Answering Tom's question as he described it to us about tell me specifically what it's worth to my customer, because if I can tell him what it's really worth and he buys into it, I'll close the deal.
So we're going to drill into this concept of value proposition versus unique value proposition, because I think it's a nuance that a lot of people probably would like to get an explanation on. A value proposition is something that marketing owns, right? It's the overall value for a particular segment versus a group of competitors. But that's not adequate in and of itself for the purposes of sales. Any good salesperson will take that and customize it for their particular sales situation, which changes all the time. So what we're talking about and what our solution is about really is providing a platform and the means to be able to do that pretty easily. Okay, so first we'll talk about value propositions.
We need another click down, Aaron. Thanks a lot. So in order to build a value proposition, marketing creates a model, and the idea around creating this model is that it reflects the business model of the customer segment that we're looking at. The focus should be on the business model and accuracy around the business model, not on the data that goes into the business model. And there needs to be a balance between that level of detail and data detail and what's something that a customer could actually use. Mm-hmm. So what we're talking about here is the value proposition should be the shotgun blast, right? It should be the buckshot hitting the target. What we're not trying to build here is the rifle shot. So Ed, maybe you can talk a little bit about your experience with this.
Well, yeah, so we've worked with many companies, and we've seen a lot of these value propositions that have been built by marketing and pricing professionals. And they're often in the form of a spreadsheet, and they're often in the form of a very complex spreadsheet. And there's quite a desire of these things being very, very precise and all-encompassing. And often what we find is that they collapse under their own weight. In other words, they could be incredibly accurate and insightful, but they're not scalable at all. It's not something that sales could really use. So a good value proposition, above all, is a vehicle for communications. It has to get across succinctly what the value proposition is all about. And as you see here, it's really boiled down into its core elements: the competitor's offer, your unique advantages, any of your unique costs, because we do want to be open about this, and then how that nets up in terms of the value that creates for the customer. So our point of view on this is that for this to be effective as a communications vehicle, it has to have some structure. It has to be what I would call simplistically elegant. In other words, it summarizes a lot of deep information, but in a way that people can digest and move with.
I like that term, simplistically elegant. Now, this structure, this value proposition structure, ultimately to be really effective in helping sales move forward, has to be manipulated. So if we could have the next slide, Aaron. So when we think about what that unique value proposition is, it's taking that value proposition and turning it into the rifle shot. So what does that mean? It means that we're gathering from customers, which ones of these value messages resonate with you? Which one do you really believe? We provide, and customers provide to us data around inventory turns, production cycles, operational costs. They provide that data to us. We get insight into the competition. What is the competition charging? What are unique values that the competition are citing that they have?
We collect that information. And oh, by the way, let's not forget price. At the beginning, I talked about Leverage Point being the software solution for value-based pricing. From our perspective, a unique value proposition needs to have your price and the price of the competition in it.
Right. So naturally, this is really great stuff for salespeople because it fine-tunes the value proposition for that unique customer's situation and advances sales. But what's exciting about marketing is the feedback loop in this. Because what marketing really wants to know is they want to validate their hypotheses about value. They want to know which of these messages are working and not, and how they differ amongst segments. They want certainly to get feedback about their offer, and especially feedback, excuse me, about competitor offers as well, and how the relative performance between our offers and our competitors are taking place in the marketplace. So having that information creates a cycle very meaningful where those value propositions much easier to communicate, and that allows sales to push that even further in terms of their discussions with customers.
So there are a couple of points I'd just like to emphasize here, if it's all right, Ed.
Yeah.
We talked at the beginning of the webinar topic was that for sales to close deals, they need collaboration. This is what we're talking about in terms of collaboration. Marketing, developing a value proposition, salespeople using that and customizing it and making it specific for that customer, and then sales feeding that information back to marketing. And that's where you get the cycle. And that cycle is really powerful. It's also an important piece to understand that these value propositions are constantly moving. They're moving within a segment as new competitors move in and out of the marketplace, as we change as an organization, as our customers change. And also these unique value propositions change depending on where a customer is, and perhaps in their buying process, perhaps in their life cycle. You're going to see these unique value propositions change. So ultimately, these unique value propositions feed a lot of masters, right? They're providing an ability for corporations to get real-time visibility into what's happening in the marketplace. They're getting that visibility not because sales is being forced to use something, but because sales is trying to provoke the customer to take action. And ultimately, this becomes a backbone of the ongoing customer relationship. What do I mean by that? This model becomes how the customer scores themselves going forward. This is how they measure themselves. This is how they're going to measure their supplier's success. And that's where you get some really strong information, because each meeting with the customer, you can get continual refinement. Mm-hmm. In today's marketplace, you cannot get this data anywhere else.
Right.
It costs too much. It's cost prohibitive to get this value data, and our application allows you to get it.
So we're going to do a real quick demonstration here just to show that collaboration between sales and marketing. And what I'm going to do then is, so what we have here is this is the sales interface of our application. You'll notice that there are some folders here on the side, and I have this marketing folder. This is really where those value propositions, those core value propositions that sales have created, this is where they live. And for sales to utilize it, they simply open it. And to customize it, all they really need to do is change the customer's name. So we'll say...
Ed always hates typing in front of us.
It makes me nervous in front of a live audience here, especially because I can't spell. Jay's Building, and we'll just say that this is our webinar version. So very quickly, what we've done is we've begun to take this value proposition and make it into a custom value proposition. Now, of course, we've changed the names, but what's really important here is to change the underlying assumptions that are critical for this particular customer. And one of the key assumptions in this particular example, which comes out of the construction building products business is the size of the project. So by simply just changing this project from 20,000 to 10,000 square feet, we've totally changed the value equation here, and that particular number populates everything else. So I've saved this custom value proposition, and then to see how quickly that will appear on the marketing side of things, we do nothing more than to refresh this page. And you will notice now that our version, the sales version, is now here. That this is a security warning, courtesy of Microsoft. Thank you, Microsoft. And everything that has been changed by our sales value proposition here are highlighted. So that's how quickly this can be done using the right technology.
So really, when we're talking about this unique value proposition that sales has created, sales can create this on their own with a customer, and every time they click save, the reason they click save is not to provide us more information, but because it's giving them a unique picture of that customer and giving them the compelling value proposition about why we want to move forward.
Right. So let's go back to the slide. And this sort of summarizes what we've been talking about, sort of the connection between the sales side and the marketing, pricing, product development, customer service, et cetera side.
So I think the idea about developing unique value propositions isn't a new idea, right? I think organizations have been trying to do it for a long time, but the view is that it's impossible. The Leverage Point platform really enables you to create these unique value propositions, these compelling reasons why a customer should buy, why a customer should take action. What the model allows, the platform allows, is for pricing, product development, marketing, operations, finance, all to come together to craft a value proposition. That value proposition is passed to sales. Sales works with customers, and they create the unique value proposition. That unique value proposition feeds back into the process. And feeding back into the process means that you're gaining critical insight into pricing, near and dear to our heart, into marketing, into sales effectiveness. The platform means that no longer is a unique value proposition a one-off activity, that it's actually scalable, that it can be shared, that it can be reused, that it can be refined, and it can be leveraged across the enterprise. At PPS, a lot of companies ask, why are you called Leverage Point? Well, a critical reason we're called Leverage Point is we believe this value information can be levered across your organization. And by levering across the organization, you are going to see sales activity change dramatically. So,
okay, I think that's the core part of our presentation. Before we take questions, just one quick program note. We're starting a new feature called Ask Tom Nagel. Many of you know who Tom Nagel is. He works with us here. And we thought it would be really interesting to start a monthly feature where members of the pricing community can ask the pricing expert a question. So watch for an email for an opportunity to ask your question, or if you want to ask it right away, we have an email address here, asktom@leveragepoint.com. We will organize those, and we will start publishing those answers. So take advantage of this free service for some expert advice, because Tom's hourly rate can be quite high. However, if you have a question right now that you would like to ask, not Tom, but to ask Jay or myself, we'll give you a free answer right now. So at this point, I'll ask my colleague Aaron to give us some questions.
Hey, let's take a look. And you guys must have done such a great job. We don't have many questions coming in here. Okay, one comes in right now. Please comment on how you address the change management issues with salespeople who are not used to collaboration.
I think I'm going to pass that one to you, Jay.
Okay. Well, it's interesting, right? If you're asking a salesperson to collaborate because it's, quote, good for the enterprise, I think it's pretty hard to do that. But what's interesting, at least what we've seen, is in using this application, salespeople are collaborating without even realizing they're collaborating. And as more salespeople create these unique value propositions, they want to see what other salespeople have created, and they want to leverage it. And that really drives adoption and drives use.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. In our last one of our last sessions, we were working with a group of salespeople, both older, experienced, and young people. And young people actually already have tablets and other types of devices. And at first, the more experienced people are just kind of looking at it, and then, you know, they saw how easy it actually could be. And once they realized that there was really not much of a learning barrier, they just have to jump in and do it. They were in the mix of it very quickly as well, because they knew what they could do with the application, which is really interesting because I've worked on lots of projects where that could be like a one-year plan to roll out that type of training, and all you really needed to do is get a group of salespeople together to work on it for half an hour or so, and they were okay, Aaron, do we have time for one more?
Yep, one more question came in. We have, says some of our customers don't want to share their internal data with us. What do you do in these situations?
Can I do this one?
Yes.
So the classic scenario is I'm meeting with procurement. Procurement's not going to share any information with me about what is the value of your solution. And I would say for the most part, procurement won't want to share that information. But what we're talking about here is being proactive to get the business person who's involved in this purchase energized to go to procurement. And the person, when they get energized, want to provide this information, because just as the salesperson is using this information to better understand and to motivate the customer will use this information internally to close the sale. The example that I used at the beginning of this negotiation I was involved with 3 weeks of going back and forth with the procurement officer, my customer was the one who was developing the value proposition. It was my customer who was using this material to get procurement to sign the deal. It's costing us thousands of dollars every day we wait. Pretty compelling to get procurement moving. So the change management with the customer is really about, have you built the right value proposition to get in the door that motivates them to get specific and provide you the data.
Good answer. Thank you, Jay. All right, so that is our webinar for this month. Stay tuned for a recording of this, which will be posted on our website probably in the next week or so, and then we'll be doing another webinar sometime during the summer in July, August timeframe. So for this month, thanks again for your time, and good luck.
Thanks again. Talk to you all soon.
Yep.
Bye-bye.